Hey everybody, Trey here. Welcome back to another forecast discussion. It's been a little while since we've done one of these videos. I've been out on the road as a tour guide for Extreme Tornado Tours, so dealing with the schedule, hotel Wi-Fi, etc., has made it a little bit difficult to put these videos out. But back home, off day today, so going to get one of these videos out to kind of keep the content flowing for you guys. We've got an enhanced risk out here for parts of northeast Oklahoma, southeast Kansas, southwest Missouri into northwest Arkansas. Also, a little slight risk up in here, up in the Pacific Northwest. Going to focus, of course, on this area down here in the plains, southern plains. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. 2% tornado probabilities for today, stretching basically just west of the Tulsa metro area, places like Tulsa, Springfield, Missouri, Branson, down toward Fayetteville, Bentonville, even almost including the Little Rock area. So tornadoes going to be an outside chance for a tornado or two today, but the main threat is going to be damaging winds, particularly centered on that kind of Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri quadruple point there, if you will, as well as significant hail with these storms today. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got our water vapor satellite imagery right here, and you can see pretty complex pattern going on in the upper levels here. We've got this kind of swirl out here across the far northern plains into Canada. That is part of the trough that has moved off toward the north and east. And we've got kind of this northwesterly flow around the base of that trough. And that's providing some help for these thunderstorms that are ongoing right now across Kansas and Missouri. If we take a look at our current radar, we have a couple of severe thunderstorm watches out right now, these yellow boxes here, and a few severe thunderstorm warnings ongoing as well, just to the east of Wichita, Kansas, as well as parts of western Missouri, southwest of Kansas, or southeast, of Kansas City. So those should continue to progress southeastward as we go throughout the morning this morning. And you can see these potent thunderstorms here on visible satellite imagery. Very strong thunderstorms here in kind of this band here from southeast Kansas into western Missouri. You can see very interesting looking cloud tops there, some overshooting tops within that band. So very potent thunderstorms here this morning. And as they move off to the south, and southeast today, they should continue on and perhaps re-strengthen as the afternoon progresses. Let's take a look at some sounding data. We're going to go right to the sounding data this morning. This is at Norman this morning. Very steep lapse rates aloft here. Lots of instability already in this profile, but you can see a little bit of a capping inversion there in place in the low levels. So atmosphere is fairly capped, going to remain capped with westward extent here today, but this is at Springfield. You can see not much capping left here. A little bit of capping remaining. There, kind of an inversion there near the surface, just above the surface there. But steep lapse rates aloft should promote large hail production in the storms today, and outflow production should be key with these storms as well. We've already got temperatures. If we look at our surface map here, we've already got temperatures into the upper 70s here across Oklahoma into northeast Oklahoma, mid 70s or so into southeast Kansas, southwest Missouri, ahead of those thunderstorms. That should only increase as the day goes on today. So these temperature dew point spreads are going to get pretty high, even though the dew points here into Oklahoma going into the 70s a little bit, low 70s there across northeast Oklahoma, Tulsa 77 over 70. But we should get pretty warm today. I would expect temperatures to get into the 90s today, given that the visible satellite shows very little cloud cover, except for this anvil blow off. That may help keep spreads down a little bit, but I still expect temperatures to be somewhat high, temperature dew point spreads to be fairly high. A little bit of mixing, given not too much cap remaining, and clear skies out here. So would expect dew points to come down a little bit, temperatures to go up pretty significantly. So would expect to see temperature dew point spreads pretty high today, which does decrease the tornado threat and increase the overall damaging wind threat from increased outflow production in these storms. You can see not really a very well-defined surface pattern here. If I go back out to the west a little bit, let's go back out to the west here. You can see not a whole lot going on. We've got kind of this wind shift here, kind of maybe a frontal zone here, helps sparking this convection here into southeast Kansas, into western Missouri. Maybe some semblance of a surface low out in here. There's some sort of cyclonic rotation I can make out there across the Texas Panhandle, perhaps, but very, very weak and not going to really strengthen or intensify as we go throughout the day today. This is our 500 millibar map here. You can see not a whole lot going on. We've got this kind of northwest flow ridge out here across the kind of western portion of the country. Another trough making its way onshore here across the Pacific Northwest. That's what's going to spark that severe threat up there today. But that's not going to be a player for our plains severe threat today. This trough you can see here is moved well off. It's well off to our north here as far as the central and southern plains is concerned. Kind of northwesterly flow rounding the base of that trough. That's going to push these storms, continue to push these storms toward the southeast today. You can see it's the flow is overall not super strong, not super compact as far as the trough goes out here. That's going to help us get ample wind shear as well. So we're not really going to see surface low development or continued strengthening of the surface low out here across West Texas as the flow kind of displaced off to the north. So would not expect to see very strong low-level winds today, and that is going to be evidence here in our 850 millibar map. You can see, maybe 25, 30 knots here in some areas out here across the Texas Panhandle, Texas South Plains, and in northwest Texas, southwest Oklahoma. But that's really not going to strengthen too much as we go throughout the day today. And you can see also that the winds are out of the southwest, so very, very veered 850 millibar winds today. So I would expect the wind shear to remain pretty marginal for tornadoes, especially as we go on throughout the day as that low-level jet continues to weaken a little bit. You can see some semblance of that surface low out here. As SPC mesoanalysis here is hinting at kind of a surface low out here across northwest Texas. But as we go throughout the day, again, we're not going to see super strengthening of that surface low. It's just going to kind of meander there out across the Texas South Plains there, the southern Texas Panhandle as well. So not really a whole lot going on in the surface pattern. Very, very weak surface low, which shouldn't really favor strengthening of the surface winds and the low-level wind profile. If we go back to our soundings, you can also see that that's the case today. We go back here to Dallas-Fort Worth, and you can see just not a whole lot going on in terms of low-level shear. Very chaotic wind profiles here at Dallas-Fort Worth. We'll go back up to Springfield, Missouri real quick. You can just see not much going on there in the low levels. Very weak low-level winds, not much curvature in the hodograph at all. So there is enough deep layer shear for supercells today, especially as that kind of belt of stronger northwesterly flow makes its way off and continues to move into the central and southern plains, into the Missouri-Arkansas region as we go throughout the day today. Deep layer shear for supercells and organized convection should increase as the day goes on. But its overall low-level shear should remain fairly weak throughout the day. So the tornado threat today I think is going to be fairly weak. Mainly a large hail threat with any more discrete or stronger updrafts within kind of this band of storms and damaging winds, I think, going to be the main threat today as this line continues to move toward the southeast and re-intensifies, as well as new convection back out here to the southwest. So let's take a look at some model data here. This is the 12Z NAM run. We'll go back up to our 500 millibar map here. So you can see that trough up into Canada, and kind of northwesterly flow rounding the base of that trough into the central plains. Secondary trough up into the Pacific Northwest there, ridging in between the two right there. So as we go throughout the day, today we should see that flow kind of strengthen across the target area, and that will help those storms maintain themselves. Again, not expecting a whole lot of new development, except maybe out here to the southwest, where the skies have been clear throughout the day. We get surface heating to assist with that. But again, I think the main show is going to be this current band of storms that is ongoing across Kansas and Missouri. That will be aided by this stronger flow aloft moving into the region. 850 millibar flow should remain fairly weak. Again, you can see some semblance of low-level circulation there, but not a whole lot, and it's going to weaken throughout the day. This is going to be at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time. You can see not much going on at 850 millibars, and you can see now at the surface. Let's see our surface pattern. We've got that surface low, that weak surface low out here across northwest Texas. Going to kind of just meander there and kind of almost weaken here on the NAM throughout the day. We do see some semblance of that continue throughout the day. Kind of, we've seen this many times this year. We've got kind of this sort of cyclonic flow here at the surface, kind of pointing out here across to northeast Oklahoma. You can see temperatures get very, very warm, 95 here at Oklahoma City, as forecast by the NAM, so that should be widespread across the region today. So temperature is going to get high. Mixing should bring down the dew points a little bit, so temperature dew point spreads will be pretty high today. So the tornado threat going to be pretty minimal today, I think. Of course, can't rule anything out. Maybe a little spin up within the main band of storms, but I don't think there's a robust tornado threat today with these storms. So let's go ahead and take a sounding here. We'll take it one at Tulsa here, and we'll take one just ahead of the complex here across western Arkansas and see what we're seeing. So this is going to be our Tulsa sounding first. You can see very, very large CAPE here, very large instability, 5,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE. That is very, very large instability. You can see the temperature dew point spreads do remain within that 20-degree kind of threshold there, 91 over 72. I do expect the dew points to come down a little bit. I don't think there's going to be continued strong moist advection at the surface. And given clear skies and not much cap remaining, I do think that mixing will be a little bit of an issue today. So I would expect the dew points to come down a little bit, maybe into the upper 60s, which would make things, roughly about 91 over 67, 68, which is a little bit high as far as temperature dew point spreads go for tornadoes. Photographs here, you can see just not a whole lot going on here. Not a lot of low-level curvature, weak low-level winds here. And you can see the 0 to 1 kilometer storm relative helicity at 9. So very, very weak, low-level shear today. So the main threats are going to be hail and, again, damaging winds, given the kind of little bit well-mixed boundary layer there. High temperature dew point spreads, strong instability as well, bringing those winds, those stronger winds down from aloft. Large hail, again, steep lapse rates here aloft. You can see that as well from this sounding. We'll go out here ahead of the main band across western Arkansas here. Not quite as much instability, but still very, very large CAPE, mixed layer CAPE, 3,500 joules per kilogram. Steep, low level, steep lapse rates here in the mid levels. A little bit more mixing here as evidenced on the NAM in this western Arkansas regime ahead of the main band, 89 over 68. So temperature dew point spreads a little bit too high again for robust tornado potential today with these storms. Not a whole lot of curvature in the hodograph. Enough deep layer shear for supercells again. Large hail going to be a threat for any of the stronger cores within the band and any discrete convection that can develop. But again, I think damaging winds going to be the main threat, given a favorable storm mode for damaging winds and kind of more favored outflow production given the well-mixed boundary layer there. So finally, we'll take a look at some cams here. This is the 12Z HRRR run. You can see it has that convection in eastern Kansas, western Missouri. Not doing a great job at depicting kind of the orientation of this convection here. This is forecast for 10 a.m. and you can see right here more kind of a solid or kind of a broken line here with the strongest cores here in western Missouri into southeast Kansas. So not doing a great job, but does have convection in generally the right area here. So it is somewhat trustworthy, and you can see as we go on throughout the day, we get kind of some more cores to intensify here within that band, and you can see some robust supercell development out here into northeast Oklahoma. Kind of gets clustered a little bit, doesn't really, maintain itself, probably becomes outflow dominant very, very quickly. And again, more of a large hail threat. We'll take a sounding out ahead of this from the HRRR, ahead of these supercells, and you can see kind of what we were seeing, a little bit contaminated, but a decent depiction here of the environment. Mixed layer CAPE, 2,500 joules per kilogram. Well-mixed boundary layer. I think this is a little bit more realistic with what we're going to see. 92 over 64. Very little bit of mixing here throughout the day. Very, very warm temperatures. So I do think this is going to be a little bit more realistic for the low-level thermodynamic profile. And you can see here, photographs just not favoring tornadoes here. Definitely favoring large hail with the steep lapse rates aloft and large instability and damaging winds with these storms today. So I'm going to wrap it up here. This was more of a quick one here, kind of a more simple sort of setup today. This is, again, the tornado threat with these storms going to be very, very minimal, given the steep, the temperature dew point spreads becoming fairly high throughout the day. And so going to be more of a damaging wind threat, given the storm mode and those temperature dew point spreads becoming high, and a large hail threat. Any discrete supercells will have a large hail threat given the very, very steep instability and steep lapse rates aloft. So with that, we will end it here. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.